What up, what up, what up, what up? It's me, L Teddy 27.
What's good? It's night right about the hood.
Oh, dear God, I'm already eating and drinking. Look a damn mess, just a damn mess. No means no, and yes means no. What up, 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 what up? What's good, people? What is up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It's me, L Teddy 27, and I am back for yet another review. This is going to be our review for David Makes Man. This is season 2. It is episode 9. It is entitled Homecoming. Got on my favorite sweater to go with my favorite show, and let's knock this down. All right, lots going on this episode. We're cascading, careening toward the season finale, and it's a lot to discuss and a lot to work out, and I'm going to try to get through everything. But whatever I miss, y'all know how we do. We'll get in the comment section, and we'll talk about it, and we'll good about what we saw. All right, so we start off with JG walking into the Ville. Young David is sitting over there on that little electrical transistor box or whatever, the one that we've talked about several times, that we've seen in both season 1 and season 2. And it's young David, and he has the little crown on. He said, "You coming, Dave?" And young David says, um, "Some things you have, some things you got to do on your own." And so he sends adult JG in there. And so in the middle of the Ville courtyard, you have Skies there. It's a bunch of the guys from the neighborhood, and some of them are playing drums with using the buckets, the 5-gallon paint buckets that you flip over or whatever. And some of them are dancing. There's this guy who's Sky is singing. There's this guy with dreads wet. He has paint on his face. He's dancing, and they have all kinds of looks to be tribal dancing going on, and just a lot going on. It was beautiful to watch. Wonderful cinematography. Um, at the end, you had the guy that had the dreads that seemed to be the featured dancer. He comes up to JG with this bowl, and the bowl has blood, and JG dips his hand in the blood, and then he wakes up because it's a nightmare. And I took away from it nothing. And I know that comes out harsh, but I didn't understand or know the purpose or the reasoning behind that. I remember last season, I believe it was episode 9 of last season as well, 8 or 9 of last season. I think it was episode 9 where they had that whole thing at the beginning after the little boy died, after Shinobi's brother died. Willie Derrick, I think his name was, or whatever his name was. And so that had a purpose, had a reason. We understood why it was there. It was meaningful. I did not understand this at all. It was beautiful to watch. It was great artistry, but I just did not make the connection. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. Because from what we can tell, as of right now, Shalimar is not dead. And so, and I forgot to mention that Shalimar was in the middle of all of this, coated. He had on all white, and then he had like white paint or powder on him. And so there's this, I just don't like that there seems to be this forceful way that they're making JG out to almost be this antagonist, and as if Shalimar is some victim and so forth. And I don't understand that, because technically here JG is the victim. JG has not done anything wrong in any of this situation, but yet every time we turn around, JG is being made to feel like he's done something wrong, and he hasn't. And every time you hear people talk, they talk about, oh well, JG always had it easy. Oh well, people always been in everything to JG. I think they're putting 20 on 10 with all of that, but whatever. Moving on. We see JG dropping Trent off to school, and Trent is being a teenager. She's asking a bunch of questions to her dad. She's finally opening up. Remember, there was a point when they were in the little ice cream shop, Trent wouldn't talk to him at all. And so now she's at the point where she's opening up. She said, "Is grandma going to move? Am I going to not see my friends anymore? Can I go visit them? Why you keep going to the Ville? Are you and mom getting divorced?" Everything. She's just being an inquisitive, talkative young teenager, which technically is what JG wanted right after he had come out of the hospital. But now he has so much going on, he don't want to talk to her at all. But she wants to talk to him. You can't have it both ways, JG. You can't have it both ways, because now she's giving you what you want, and you don't want no parts of that. So he kind of blows up at her a little bit, and she kind of gets out of the car in frustration and anger, and so forth. So, and yeah, he's frustrated. He's lashing out at her. A lot is going on with JG right now, and that dream kind of threw him for a loop, and he's still kind of spaced out because of that nightmare and dream. So then we see David on the Metro Rail. He starts off, reminiscing about the things that happened at Dr. Holloway's office and the things that he remembered talking to her about. And then we see young David standing right there next to him. And young David is taking over. And they have this playful conversation about him not having a car and him buying a Maserati and everything. And it was great. Now, I mean, we're back where we want to be. We got young David being young David and it's truly taken over for adult David. And I love seeing adult David watching himself be young David and being, just uncomfortable. Um, JG goes back to work and he's not being received well at work. They're not receiving him well at all at work. They're ignoring him. The chief puts him on surveillance duty and he's still on desk work. His fellow cops are not saying anything. So finally, one of the cops, um, I don't know if it was his partner or somebody that's a friend of his, comes over and talks to him. And he tells JG, because they started cheering in another room, and he tells JG that, the judge decided to try Shalimar as an adult. And him and JG get in this argument. And at first, JG was like, well, I'm glad somebody's talking to me, and, and everything, because everybody had been ignoring him and not talking to him. And so the cop was like, well, listen. So JG gets upset and kind of blows up on the cop and says, oh, that means that this child's life is over and this, that, and the third, and now that's it for him. And do you think that's fair? And the cop is like, listen, I don't think it's fair that the cop has to get shot. And I don't think, and you over here fighting for this young man, and we took money out of our own pockets that we could have for our kids and our families to give to you to take care of you and your family. And you just nearly really gave that money to somebody else. Now, I don't think you can have it both ways. When you give somebody money, that is up to that person to do whatever they want to do with it. You can't dictate how somebody uses that money. If you're freely given to that person, if you're truly of the spirit of charity and benevolence. However, JGU as well have to understand too that these people were not going to be okay with you giving money to the guy that caused you to need money in the first place. And cops are just not inclined to be giving money to people who are inclined to shoot other cops. I'm just saying. Um, so he goes outside and he's frustrated and everything, and he calls Shella, and Shella doesn't answer because she's with a client. She texts him, "Hey, I'm with a client. Are you good?" And he's about to text her and then decides not to. And he ends up leaving, and while he's leaving, they're calling him all kinds of names and traitor and all this stuff, and he's dealing with that whole situation. So then we see David shows up at work. Baby David done got to work. It's after lunch, and David is always on time. And so Denise's assistant says, "Hey, you never late for work. It's after lunch. What's going on?" And young David takes over. He's shooting baskets in the in the trash can, talking about Kobe and everything, and is joking and jovial and playful with Denise, and trying to say, take interest in Denise and say, "Hey, let's make an appointment to go and me sit down and make some goals and set up plans for you and see how you're doing and get you to start achieving and things like that." And so she was like, "But David, this is the you have the hardest job right now that you've ever had in your career. You got a lot going on. You got a lot of things to do." And he was like, "No, ain't nothing too busy. I will make time." And so old David kind of pushes young David into the office, and when he gets to the office, Padilla calls. And young David snatches the phone, and Padilla is going off and cussing, and young David gives it right back to him and cusses him right back out. He was like, "You got one more time to call me a lie." And young David, was giving it to Padilla, and I was here for it. I liked it because Padilla needs, and sometimes when you got bosses like that, they need to be checked because they feel like every now and again people in positions of power need some type of resistance and need somebody that's going to check them and not just let them, not just let them bully everybody. A bully needs another bully. And so I loved young. I keep wanting to say young JG, young David giving it to Padilla, and he starts making all these problems. He said, "I told you I was gonna have to figure it out in 6 months, but now I can make it 4 months. Matter of fact, no, it's gonna be next week." And then he was starting to say, "Matter of fact, no, it'll be." And adult David just hangs up the phone right in Padilla's face. Alon comes in and he was just talking and says, "Did you say something?" And he was like, "I need a ride." So they leave. David tells Alon he needs a ride. We then see JG coming home. He goes in the house after, a day of frustration, trying to unwind from a whole lot of fuckery at work. And Trisha is giving it to him, but she be like, "Listen, Trent is missing. Have you seen her? Where she at? This, that, and the third. Dot, 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 dot. Where's our daughter? She's missed. She didn't go to soccer practice, and everything. Yeah. And so now they got to go find Trent. So then we see David in the line. They're out getting something to eat. David is young David done took over. He telling Eli how good his how nice his car is, and how it must got some good push on it, and how you could probably lay the whole front seat back as a bed or whatever. Hint, hint. Anyway, um, then he starts remarking to Elon that he's just like his little brother JG, that always had everything handed to them, and everything comes so easily to them because everything's been done and handed to them on a silver platter. And so David tells Elon to go get some napkins or something. And while he's doing that, um, Glow calls David and tells David Trent is missing. And she said, listen, I'm going home to see if she went home. And David says, I'll be right there. I'll bring you there. So young David did say, like, how? On foot? We walking? Because you ain't got no car. Nigga, you ain't got no car. Anyway, JG has been out looking for Trent. So he comes home after looking for Trent. And Trisha tells him, listen, we can call the police station. And so forth. And he was like, yeah, we probably can't do that. They don't really like me down there. Not after I gave up this money. What did you expect? Come on now, JG. Come on now. You done been a cop for a while. You knew that wasn't gonna go over well. You round here letting Shella guilt you into stuff, and she still ain't came around, and Shella is still being a bitch, and Shella is still giving you grief, and you did what she wanted you to do. I don't understand what Shella wants, but we'll get to Shella in a few minutes. Anyway, while he's talking to Trisha, telling her that ain't nobody at the station gonna help him, Mix Elijah called. The Mix Elijah's being Mix Elijah, yelling, ranting, and raving. And JG was like, listen, my daughter is missing. I don't have time for this. He was like, I just saw her downstairs. And he was like, okay, I'll be right over there. So he starts to make calls to Glow and David and tell him. But they cut away to David going up to his apartment to go look for his driver's license because he wants to go rent a car. And so he sees Nicole coming off the elevator, and then they cut away to Glow coming home. Glow comes home. She's worried, calling for Trent. You hear. One of the kids is in the room on the earphones. She goes in there and asks them, have you seen Trent? She been there? Da, 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 da. Is everything okay? Well, we're looking for her. And the child reminds Glow she don't have no phone. I can't call her phone because Glow said, "You call her phone, she might answer." And she was like, you took her phone and gave it to her dad. She on punishment. And Glow starts to feel bad because she was like, damn, I gave her phone to her dad. She on punishment. So JG calls Glow at that point and tells Glow that Mix Elijah said Mix Elijah said they saw Trent at the Ville. Robin comes home. Glow is rushing out the house to get to the Ville to go see by Trent and go help JG. Robin is like, slow down. Let JG handle this. He got it. And Glow is like, no, let me go. Don't tell me how to handle my children. And they get into this argument because she's like, listen, whenever this happens, you get real, you start running and ranting and raving and revved up, and you end up like passing out. And I'm the one left to pick up the pieces and pick up everything after all of this happened. And she was like, listen, now is not the time to be trying to tell me what I should and should not do. I got stuff to do. I was kind of with Glow on this. We could have this conversation in the aftermath, but in the immediacy of everything, my grandchild is missing. My son is going back to the place where he got shot. Baby, you're not going to tell me not to go. We'll talk about this later. I was with him. Because at this point, she knows that not only is Trent going to need the love and support of her family, but JG is as well. And these are situations where you look for the family unit to be united here. This wasn't the time for all of that, Robin. I understand what you're going through, boo-boo. Now it's not the time. Back down to David's apartment. He's looking for these driver's licenses in his house. And Nicole done came up into the apartment with him. And young David opens up to Nicole about how, sometimes he sees things or, talks to people and how him and Trent have that connection. And Nicole is so elated that David is finally opening up to her and having a real conversation and letting her in to his, into who he is and into his whole psyche or whatever. And she likes this side of David. And adult David is surprised at how receptive Nicole is to young David taking over. Anyway, JG calls and tells David that Mix Elijah saw Trent at the Ville. So young David finds does what he does, fixes problems, and finds the driver's license, and he's over there dancing, which means adult David is dancing, and Nicole walks in and sees them dancing, and she just smiles because she likes this lighter side of David. Anyway, JG goes down to the Ville. He goes to Mix Elijah's house, and Mix Elijah's is like, Trent, ain't no Trent. So he done figured out that Mix Elijah is having a whole episode with dementia and never saw no Trent. And he is incensed. He is livid. He goes off on Mix Elijah because Mix Elijah didn't even realize Trent was missing. Mix Elijah was like, well, let me come with you. Let me go get my other shoe. He'd be like, take your forgetful ass back in the house. And he says he's upset. He's right now he is in the middle of, panic, looking for his daughter. So he lashes out like a lot of people probably would in that situation. On his way down, some of the kids are out there as he's walking out, and they're just being disrespectful. They calling him all kinds of names and this, that, and the third. And one of the youngest little boys just said, I forgot what he said, but he cussed at him. And JG kind of loses it at that point. And so there was this back and forth. He's trying to explain that I got a lot going on. I'm the only one who's been coming out here trying to look out for y'all, save y'all, and y'all doing me like this. And I got all this going on. And everybody's standing around watching these little kids just go off and be disrespectful to JG, who once again never did anything. Shella brings some disrespectful ass around and is like, oh, well, he got to learn that everybody ain't going to be into him and ain't going to coddle him. And I'm like, what? Shella been out of control for a while. This entire time, JG, at every turn, has tried to do things to coax her, to coddle her, to make her feel good. All the while, he's suffering. Every time we turn, we're, bending toward Shella, but she seems to think everything's bending toward JG. Make it make sense, Shella. Nobody is going to say nothing to these disrespectful ass little kids who's cussing out grown people. Nobody thinks it's a problem with what these kids are doing, because they're wrong by every stretch of the imagination. And here's one of the problems that you have. I grew up in the hood. I know about the hood, so I can talk. A lot of times you have situations, I'm not saying all the time, but a lot of times you have situations where you have these kids that are doing the wrong thing. You see people doing wrong. And instead of checking the people that's doing wrong, you checking other people that ain't did nothing wrong. And say, why you bothering them kids? They just get, no, the child is wrong. And you should be checking this child and not JG. And everybody call it JG, no, JG, stop, da, 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 da. Why aren't y'all telling this child, no, stop, don't do that, this, that, and the third? It's a problem. And so what you end up happening is the child never learns that this is wrong behavior. And there's the there will be, perpetuated in this neighborhood, people doing wrong things perpetually. This behavior gets proliferated. A mess. And for Shella and all her, I'm looking out for my people. I'm looking out for the Ville. I'm looking out this, that, and the third. Why ain't you trying to correct some of this bad behavior? Why you ain't trying to get people to do the right thing? Because see, by them saying that it was okay for this little boy to have a gun and be shooting and everything like that, that means that you're saying it's okay for the next one to have a gun and the next person to be shooting somebody. And where does it end? A mess. Complete and total mess. A damn mess. David and Glow show up and they stop JG. So everybody's stopping JG. Nobody wants to check all of these other people, but everybody's stopping JG. A mess. A mess. Young David takes Elijah has a couple words with Glow. Hold and pause on that. Young David takes young JG in this in an empty apartment. Now, I remarked when I saw, y'all notice how tall young JG, or the actor that plays young JG, has gotten, because the actor that plays young JG is now just as tall as the actor that plays as Achille McDowell is, who plays young David. They're the same height. And back in the day, in season 1, young JG was much shorter, but you can see that growth spurt starting to hit. He done got that voice done changed a little bit and everything. He done got tall. Anyway, so JG tells David, they have this whole argument and everything, and David is talking about Sky and the fact that Trent, that JG, part of him has died to Trent, and how he needs to be loud and he needs to talk to his daughter and listen to her, this, that, and that. And JG is like this. All that sounds well, good and fine, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you as much as you may have wanted me to be back in the day with Sky, but I ain't got time for all of that. My daughter is fucking missing. I don't have time to be over here having a whole argument and trying to be nice and walk on eggshells and be nice to people while I'm out here looking for my daughter, who only God knows where she is or what has happened to her. I'm with JG on this. Time and place. Because these several minutes that you wasted trying to argue with me are minutes that we're not taking to try and find her, and something could be happening. I was with JG on that. Sorry, David. You was wrong. Then we cut away to Glow is in Mix Elijah's house. They have a whole argument because just like I said, listen, when you're right as much as I am, you don't have to brag about it, okay? I'm just telling you. When you're right as much as I am, you don't have to brag about it. I told y'all, Mix Elijah and Glow had some type of separation. Glow is not going over there to the bill to see Mix Elijah. And Abby, shout out to my girl Abby. Y'all go watch her reviews. You can find her on YouTube, Abby Reviews, okay? Shout out to Abby. I told you Abby on the discussion panel. I told everybody else. Glow was not going over there to see Mix Elijah. I said that. I said there was a problem. There was a rift between them. And they were like, no, she probably is. They probably ain't showing it. I said, nope. I knew it. And so we see now the culmination of that. Glow haven't been doing right by Mix Elijah. Glow ain't been going over there. JG has been the only one going over there. Like I said the whole time. Anyway. And Elijah checked Glow on that. And one thing I wrote down, because Elijah was trying to say, well, those are adult boys. You don't have to be following after them like that. You don't have to be running behind them like that because they are grown. And Glow says, I don't know no other way to be. And Elijah was like, apparently you do, because you know how to leave me alone. You know how not to be around me all the time. I was like, ooh. And so she promises Mix Elijah, I'm going to go find him because David comes in and says, listen, JG is waiting for you downstairs. He's about to go. You need to go get in the car. We got to go. And so she promises to call Mix Elijah. And Mix Elijah said, we'll see. We'll see. So David and Mix Elijah have a conversation. And so all about how they got to move out in a week, and David done messed up everything, and David done caused the bill. You know, David been trying to get out of the bill since he was a little boy, and now he done caused the bill to go away permanently, probably. And while he's doing that, young David done went and found this topsoil type stuff that Mix Elijah uses for the garden. And David remembers that that's the same soil that Marissa was using when she was taking her samples or whatever. And probably done figured out that, listen, the real soil from the bill is not the soil that they used for the samples to do the toxicity test or the toxicity report. So David now has a plan. So we see young David and old David get in the car. And to me, this was the most powerful moment of the episode. Young David and old David get in the car. And young David is all excited, said, oh, I got a plan. We're going to do this. This is what I do. I multitask. I figure stuff out. I get stuff done. This, that, and the third. Adult David goes off. That's when he started with shut the fuck up and goes off on young David. Just goes in. And young David is sitting there like just like so helpless. And let me tell you when they took me out. They took me out when they said, when young David just looks at him and said, he ain't even looking at him, he's looking at like straight into at the camera or whatever. He says, why you always talk to me like that? Took me out. All the way done. Took me out. You know, Achille McDowell emotes like no other. You know, when he gets into character, he emotes like, y'all know he takes us there. Great scene right there. My favorite scene of the episode. That whole, because he was going on, because he was basically saying to young David, you always worried about business. You always taking care of fixing problems and stuff like that for work and for business. When are you going to fix the problems of the people you love and the people around you? When you going to start fixing that? Because we didn't come over here for work purposes. We came over here for our niece. When are you going to fix that? Took me all the way out. He ended up making sending a text message to Dr. Holloway, making another appointment, saying he can't do this on his own. Because when young David said, why you always talk to me like that? Took us out, honey. Anyway, so JG goes home, and him and Trisha are talking. And they have, a montage of different scenes of people doing different things. But anyway, we see JG and Trisha at home, and they're really in the immediacy of Trent being missing. They're parsing out their roles as parents and how to interact with her and what they should be doing and how they have trained her and groomed her to this point. And I think JG just got to a point where he was like, I don't think that that's going to work anymore. I don't think that I can do that anymore, because maybe what we were doing wasn't working, and that's how we got here. In addition to the fact that he's changing, and maybe he can't be that thing that Trisha needs him to be anymore. Because Trisha was saying, you're supposed to be her protector and show her somebody's always going to be there to protect her and be there for her. And I'm supposed to show her that she can be independent and do things on her own. JG was like, I don't know if that's going to work. So then finally, David is on the phone with JG. David said, JG is out and about still searching the streets for his daughter. And he calls David. David says, listen, I'm going home. I'm going to change, and I'll be right back out in the streets with you. So he hangs up with JG as he walks in his house, turns toward his living room. Trent is sitting in the chair in his living room. It goes off from there. Now, I wonder, is Trent looking for her Uncle David to do for her what young David did for Sarah, help her get away? I wonder. Anyway, y'all, we got one more episode, and there's so many loose ends that we got to, tie up. So many things. I don't know how they're gonna manage to get everything done in this season finale episode next week in 1 hour. Maybe it'll be longer than an hour. I don't know, but it's a lot to get done in 1 hour. We will see. It's probably gonna be a long review. I can see that. Anyway, let's get in the comment section, because I know I left some stuff out. Y'all tell me what y'all interpreted that opening scene to mean and to be or whatnot, because I'm still kind of confused on that. So y'all help me out. Now I need your help. I need your help. Anyway, that's all I got for y'all. Until next time, thank y'all for coming. Y'all drive safe. I'm out.